What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out the differences between the latest two devices that we got from POCO. So on the left here we have the POCO X6 Pro, this is also the more expensive device out of the two, and on the right hand side here I have the POCO M6 Pro. So I've also included a short camera comparison in this video, and if you just want to see that camera comparison, that one starts at this minute of this video. Alright, let's start by checking out the boxes and see what comes in the box with both devices. Alright, so both devices get similar looking boxes, aside from the color of course, and inside each box you're pretty much gonna find the same thing. So we have a silicone case, we have a cable, this is a USB-C to a USB-A cable, and then you're gonna find a 67 watt fast charger in each box. So both devices have 5000 mAh batteries inside it. However, the POCO M6 Pro will do better for battery life, mostly because the chipset inside this device is not as powerful and the screen resolution is a bit lower than the screen resolution that we get on the POCO X6 Pro. Talking about screens, well, they both have the same screen size. So we have a 6.67 inches screen on both devices. As I mentioned earlier, the POCO X6 Pro has a somewhat higher resolution when compared to the POCO M6 Pro. They both support 120 Hz refresh rate. As for brightness, well, they kind of look the same. I even took both phones outdoors, and outdoors I was almost able to see the screen on the POCO M6 Pro slightly better, just slightly better. Now, I did notice that the bezels on the screen of the POCO X6 Pro are somewhat smaller than the bezels that we get on the POCO M6 Pro, and they're both covered by Gorilla Glass 5. So yes, the POCO X6 Pro does have the better screen because it is a higher resolution screen, I'm gonna say. Both devices also have a 16 megapixel front-facing camera, so you can see the cutouts right there, and both devices have an under-screen fingerprint scanner, and the fingerprint scanners seem to work fairly equal on both devices, so I can't really say that one is so much faster than the other one. So similar cameras and similar fingerprint scanners on both devices. Now, the absolute biggest difference that you will find between these two devices is the chipset inside these two devices. So the POCO X6 Pro here is a much more powerful device. So inside the POCO X6 Pro we have the MediaTek Dimensity 8300 Ultra, where inside the POCO M6 Pro you're gonna find the MediaTek Helio G99 Ultra. So just to give you an example, if we open the AnTuTu benchmark here, you will see the scores that we get. So 1.3 million on the POCO X6 Pro versus 427,000 on the POCO M6 Pro. So massive difference for performance. Now, you're probably also noticing that the POCO X6 Pro got much hotter while running that benchmark test when compared to the POCO M6 Pro. So if you're into a lot of games, if you do a lot of graphic intensive tasks, the POCO X6 Pro will also be hotter compared to the other one. And just in case you want to see the score that we get on the Geekbench 6, so we get a multi-core score of about 4,300 on the POCO X6 Pro and about 1,900 on the POCO M6 Pro. So performance-wise, yes, there is a massive difference between these two devices. So if you're into a lot of games, if you do a lot of graphic intensive tasks like video editing, the POCO X6 Pro will be much better. On top of that, even the internal storage inside the POCO X6 Pro is much faster than the internal storage that we have in the POCO M6 Pro. And just in case you're wondering, both devices have 512 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM, at least the versions that I have right here. So much faster internal storage on the POCO X6 Pro, but with the POCO M6 Pro you can actually install an SD card. So this device can take an SD card where the POCO X6 Pro cannot take an SD card. So something to keep in mind as well. Then we're moving on to build quality and overall appearance. So yes, the backs on both devices do look a bit different. Realistically, they're kind of similar in a way. They're both made out of plastic, so the backs on both of them are made out of plastic. The frames on both devices are also made out of plastic. And I gotta say, they do feel a bit on the cheaper side. Now at the top there, both devices have the second speakers, so they do have two speakers. They have an infrared sensor, so you can use either device as a remote control. And with the POCO M6 Pro you also get a 3.5mm audio jack, which is a nice addition, and I kind of wish we would have got that on the X6 Pro as well, but we don't. And of course at the bottom here we have the holes for the second speaker. Since we are talking about speakers, let me play a quick sample here just so you can see how the speakers on both devices sound like. Alright, so next we are moving on to cameras, and I guess we are gonna be starting our camera comparison as well. Now, even though the POCO X6 Pro here looks like it has more cameras, in reality we have the same cameras on both devices. So the main camera is a 64 megapixel sensor that has optical image stabilization on both devices. Then we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera and a 2 megapixel macro camera that nobody will ever use. So we basically have the same camera systems on both devices. Now, because we do have different chipsets, the processing of these pictures is very, very different. So what you're seeing on the screens now are basically pictures taken on auto mode with both devices. So you can easily tell that the POCO X6 Pro has the better pictures in a way. I mean, the dynamic range in some of those pictures is better, the colors are a bit more vibrant, maybe the picture sharpness is a bit better, even though they do kind of look the same-ish in a way. But overall, for daytime pictures and the way the phone actually processes those pictures, the POCO X6 Pro is definitely the clear winner here, even though we do have the exact same cameras. Now, for nighttime pictures, once again, even though we do have the same cameras, the processing seems to be better on the POCO X6 Pro, so there is a bit less noise in those pictures. Some of them actually look a bit brighter as well. So definitely for pictures, even for daytime, for pictures taken with the front-facing cameras, for pictures I'm gonna say the POCO X6 Pro does way better than the M6 Pro. Of course, we also have to take into consideration the pricing of these two devices, because the X6 Pro is also the most expensive device out of the two. Now, for video recordings, well, here once again we have a pretty big difference, and again that has a lot to do with that chipset that we have in both devices. So the POCO X6 Pro can actually record in 4K at 30 frames per second with the main camera, where the POCO M6 Pro, so the cheaper one, cannot. So it can only do 1080p at 60 frames per second. So if you want a phone that has better video quality, basically better picture quality, the POCO X6 Pro is the one to go for. And next I'm gonna play some sample videos that I've done during the day and of course at night, just so you can see how both devices do for video stabilization, video quality, and so on. Alright, we have a quick video recording between the POCO M6 Pro and of course the POCO X6 Pro. For this recording I'm doing 4K at 30 frames per second with the X6 Pro and 1080p at 30 frames per second with the M6 Pro. So the M6 Pro can only do 1080p at 60 frames per second, or of course with the X6 Pro you can do 4K at 30 frames per second. So a bit of a difference for those recordings basically. Let's walk a bit faster just so you can see how that video stabilization does on both devices. And I'm also gonna run for a bit. We'll stop somewhere around here. We're gonna pan left slowly. And back right. And we'll turn around. So this is how recording done with the main cameras on the backs of both devices would look like on a super sunny day. It is a bit windy, so you're probably gonna hear some wind aside from my voice as well. So 4K versus 1080p. Alright, next we are moving on to a quick recording done with the front-facing cameras on both devices. So if you are using the front-facing cameras, the maximum recording resolution on both devices is 1080p at 60 frames per second. For this particular recording, I'm doing 1080p at 30 frames per second. So let's turn this way and we'll walk this way for a bit. I'm also gonna walk a bit faster, just so you can see how the video stabilization works on both devices. And I'm also gonna run for a bit. So this is how a recording done with the front-facing cameras on these two devices would look like. And I also wanted to show you a super quick recording done in 1080p at 60 frames per second. So both devices can do 1080p at 60 frames per second with that main camera on the back. I'm just gonna stop here quick. We're gonna pan left for a bit and then back right. So very quick 1080p at 60 frames per second recording, just so you can see how the quality of that recording looks like. Alright, we have a quick video recording in low light between these two POCO devices. So for this recording I'm using the main cameras and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second with one device and 1080p at 30 frames per second with the other device. So I'm gonna walk this way. It is a bit darker around here, just so you can see how both devices do in low light. As you know by now, low light is not the best for recording videos with most phones out there. Now, from what I'm seeing on the screens here, the X6 Pro 5G does look a bit better. The other one seems to be losing focus every so often. So yeah, this is how both devices would record videos in low light. Alright, so as you've seen for yourself for pictures and videos, the POCO X6 Pro is definitely the one to go for, even though it is the more expensive device out of the two, so kind of expected. Now for operating systems on the POCO X6 Pro, we get the new Xiaomi Hyper OS. So definitely an improvement over the MIUI 14 that we have on the POCO M6 Pro here. Let me just exit this for a bit, so I'll go back to settings actually. I was just gonna scroll through this. So yes, the Xiaomi HyperOS does seem a bit slimmer in a way. It maybe operates a bit quicker. It's not that big of a difference, but noticeable in some situations. Now, the one thing that I did notice is how many ads and how many apps come pre-installed on these phones. Look at this. So a bunch of apps that come pre-installed, and everything you do on these phones, if you install an app, if you change the wallpaper, you're gonna see an ad. So I'm definitely not a fan of all those ads. So sure, the POCO X6 Pro has the newer UI, but they both have a lot of stuff that comes pre-installed, and well, I'm not a fan of those crazy ads that we get everything you do on these two devices. So there you have it. This was a super quick look at the POCO X6 Pro and the M6 Pro. If I would be to buy one of these phones, I would definitely go for the X6 Pro. There is a massive difference in performance whenever you're playing games or if you do some video editing or something like that. And as you've seen for yourself, even for taking pictures and videos. Alright guys, hopefully this video was useful. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.